no surprise here, no shock here. Eventually, Mark Cuban was going to talk about the trade. I don't know if you guys got to see some of the quotes here, okay? But eventually, he was going to give his opinion on what he thought of the trade. No, not a shocker here. We all know that Mark Cuban is no longer the majority owner of the Dallas Mavericks. And he was on WFAA in Dallas and having a sit-down conversation, and obviously the trade came up. Let me read you exactly his quotes that he had on WFAA. Okay? So here are the quotes that he had. Let's see what he said here. Find the exact quote here. I love some of the things he didn't want to talk about, yet he still found himself talking about. Here's the main quote that you could take away from the trade. He said, if the Mavs are going to trade Luka, that's one thing. Just get a better deal. I still firmly believe if we had gotten 4 unprotected number ones and Anthony Davis and Max Christie, this would be a different conversation. It's funny. I thought it was one of the more shocking things when Mark Cuban was selling the Dallas Mavericks, or was selling majority ownership, and he's got no say anymore. So it's not like he can do anything about it. It's not like, and he even mentioned it in some of his quotes. He's like, listen, I don't have a say in this. I don't run the team anymore. So it really doesn't matter. He actually has that quote. I'm not going to go there. When they said, would you have traded Luka Doncic? He said, I'm not going to go there. It doesn't even matter. I thought it was interesting where he said, okay, well, I'm not going to tell you whether I would have traded Luka or not, even though everybody knows he would have never traded Luka Doncic. But on top of that, it had almost nothing even to do with that. On top of him not wanting to trade Luka Doncic, there's also the other side of it, of him saying, well, if you're going to trade him, well, how the hell are you just getting Anthony Davis and Max Christie for him? How are you not getting 4 unprotected picks and this and that, and go from there? So in one way, he doesn't want to give his opinion on things, but he's giving his opinion clearly on, obviously the entire matter. You know what's crazy about this? And it's not like there's really a quote in here that's shocking, because I think for anybody, they know the way Mark Cuban handled his business, and the chances of Mark Cuban actually trading Luka Doncic, I don't think would have ever happened. I was listening to, I kind of find myself right now listening to a few different Mavs podcasts, or there's a sports radio station in Dallas as well. I'm just kind of curious, their opinion, their thoughts, this and that. That happened right after the trade happened. So YouTube is just kind of feeding me a little bit of this Dallas stuff. You know what's crazy? Do you know what's kind of taking off right now in Dallas? What's taking off right now in Dallas is a lot of people saying, and these are not just 1 or 2 people. There are people out there that cover the NBA that are saying that they think the Dallas Mavericks should actually trade Anthony Davis in the summer. So first, there's the conversation of shutting down Anthony Davis the rest of the season, which I got to be honest with you guys. If I'm Anthony Davis and I'm in a predicament, in a situation where nobody believes, that obviously his presence in Dallas, the injuries that they've had, the tie now to Anthony Davis is just that, oh yeah, that's why we traded Luka, was for this guy. If AD is healthy before the season ends, I do think he should play, and I do think they should fight to try to get into that playing tournament. That's just a personal opinion. If I'm someone in Dallas, if I'm Anthony Davis, I'm grabbing a mic in Dallas and saying, if I could go, I'm going to play. We'll see what eventually happens. But do you know a lot of the chatter and the conversation now in Dallas is they should trade AD in the summer? That's how colossal of a failure all of this is. He's played 31 minutes for the Dallas Mavericks, and there's already conversation about, hey, maybe they just trade him in the summer, recoup as much as they possibly can, and then just start that rebuilding process. And if Kyrie walks and he goes somewhere else, then Kyrie walks and he goes somewhere else. I mean, they're already talking about literally a complete rebuild in Dallas. Do I think that will happen? Probably not. I think they're so far in and they look so bad. They're not going to do anything other than try to save whatever they have. But that's literally part of the conversation that's going on right now in Dallas. So kind of crazy. But listening to Mark Cuban talk about the trade, he's saying, well, if you're going to trade Luka, you got to go get a better package than that. Clearly, a lot of people thought Dallas didn't get enough in the trade with the Lakers, or maybe you got to open it up to other teams. However you want to look at it, there's that piece of it. And then there's already conversation now that the Dallas Mavericks potentially should be looking at trading Anthony Davis 31 minutes into his career with the Dallas Mavericks. That is absolutely insane. All right, last thing here that I'm just going to throw in on the Dallas side of things. I don't know if you guys saw this. I'm going to play this real quick here. This is just kind of one other thing that kind of ties into what we're talking about here. Did you guys hear Jason Kidd at all? Let me play Jason Kidd for you. Jason Kidd yesterday. Did you guys realize that the Dallas Mavericks yesterday in a game only had 7 guys available? Listen to what Jason Kidd.
No, never seen this. Never been in a game that we could not take someone out to rest them because we had no one to put in. That's just, the end of the bench. Normally you can put someone in. If not in clothes, they were in the back getting stitches or could not move or walk. So it's tough. It's tough. It is what it is, though. I mean, we got to keep pushing forward. No.
I've never seen this. Can't take someone out to rest because we had no one to put in. Mavs only had 7 players available at one point of the game versus the Suns. I'm waiting for a positive story to come out of Dallas. This franchise can't catch a break. They literally cannot catch a break. That is insane. That is, I've never heard of that as well, where you only have 7 guys available on your team. But every storyline with the Dallas Mavericks, I've said this to you guys before. We've talked about this in the past, right? We've talked about the whether it was the trade and then it was the injury to Anthony Davis, the injury to Kyrie, ticket prices going up. I mean, franchise can't catch a break. All right, let's take a look at some of the comments here. And then we'll start taking a look at the weekend recap, and any questions that you guys have, we'll answer it as well. You have to have 8 to forfeit, right? Okay, so I think they had 8, but then somebody got injured. So I think that was the storyline behind that. Clay made a choice. Yeah, Clay. Think about Klay Thompson here for a quick. That's a good point, actually, in that sense. Clay basically signed. I mean, the reason why I'm reading this, a lot of people are putting here Klay Thompson. Clay basically signed. He signed. Let me think about this here. It's kind of picking and choosing. Signed thinking he was going to play with Luka. Kind of was going to bring a championship mentality to a team that, obviously just was in the NBA Finals. So there was a lot of kind of storylines and reasons why Clay was signing in Dallas. And now this. I mean, if I'm Klay Thompson, am I not trying to leave there as well? By the way, if you're Dallas, why even do you want Clay? I mean, wouldn't you put him up in the market and say, is there a team out there that would want a Klay Thompson? Somebody's saying here, the Kyrie injury changed everything. Because you thought, at the absolute worst, you thought this. By the way, I don't even agree with Nico Harrison when he said that they made this trade for a 3 to 4 year window championship run. I think that's too long. I think it was a 2 to 3 year window championship run just because of the age of all these players. Might have just been 2 years. Well, you lost this year already because AD is injured. And the moment Kyrie went down, this was not just your, out 3 to 4 weeks. Kyrie's going to miss at least half of next season. We'll see what happens. But yes, the Kyrie injury was that one changed everything. It's got to be demoralizing for AD, and Clay would be kicking himself for choosing Dallas if they do that. Yeah, nothing he can do. I mean, at least he got paid. Cuban would have wanted LeBron and all our picks for the next 10 years for Luka. Or Cuban just wouldn't have traded Luka. Right? Just wouldn't have traded him. Let's see what else we got here. Slee, what if LeBron would have spent his entire career with Cleveland and then Cleveland drafted Bronny? That would have been a better story than being drafted to the Lakers. What do you think? I don't know. LeBron's story is pretty fascinating in itself. I mean, look at his time in Miami, how that kind of shook the NBA. And then he went back to Cleveland and won them an NBA championship. And then he went to the most storied franchise in NBA history in the Lakers and won a championship there too. He's kind of had a, pretty interesting path as well. Definitely carved his own path. You can't get what the Lakers didn't have. The reason we got Luka was because they wanted AD. The Mavs valued AD closer to an equal than the rest of the world. You know what they valued AD for? They thought AD was the missing piece to winning a championship, specifically against Boston. That's what they thought. But still a wild risk and trade that clearly within the course of 6 weeks is not working. They're saying the Mavs will probably lose over $1 billion over the next 5 years because of the trade. I don't know the finances of it. I'll just tell you this. If you and I were Mavs fans and were Mavs season ticket holders, I ain't renewing. I'm not. What are you talking about? Why would I come back? I'm a season ticket holder because there's a star on this team named Luka, and the team was good. So I think there's a lot of those as well. Cuban's opinion doesn't matter. He sold his share. He doesn't like the Lakers. I think it matters. I think his opinion definitely matters. He owned the Dallas Mavericks, drafted Luka Doncic, traded for him, won an NBA championship over his career, and sold the team to this ownership. I wonder if he feels any responsibility. That was another conversation they were having about, should he feel any responsibility, or should he have done a better job of, better due diligence in figuring out who he was selling to? I mean, I guess it's not his responsibility. He sees $4 billion and they're $3.5 billion or whatever they sold for, and he's like, yeah, that works for me. I don't know how many people, when they're selling their home, really worry about who they're selling their home to. I think they're just like, did I get the price that I was looking for? Cool. And then they walk away. Now, if you had an indication that, I don't know, I'm just using as an example, the people coming into the home are going to completely jack up the neighborhood, maybe you think of that. Yeah, Greg, it's not his job to, it's really more the NBA that should be concerned about who's coming in to buy. It's not Mark Cuban's job. It's not. But I get people that are saying, like, Mark, did you have any idea that these guys were going to do what they were doing? Whatever the case is. Okay, let's take a look here. A couple more comments here, and I want to do the weekend recap. Stop worrying about Dallas. Lakers have their own problem. Does it make Laker fans feel better to look at their demise? John, it is the biggest NBA story, period. The biggest NBA story. It will probably be the biggest NBA story over the next 5, 7, 10 years. And every little nugget that comes out, when I'm hearing that the Mavs are potentially gonna, or people are considering, hey, they should just trade Anthony Davis and blow this thing up in the summer, I'm not going to pretend like that doesn't exist. It is an interesting story, in my opinion. It's a very, very interesting story, a fascinating story, and it's not going to go anywhere for a while. All right, thank you very much for watching the clip. Just want to give a shout out here to one of our partners, the Wallace Firm. They are official injury attorney of the Sliwa Show and Hoops Talk, the entire channel. If you are ever in a need, and I hope you're not, but some type of serious injury with yourself or a family member of yours, I would like to personally help you by introducing you to the best in the business, Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. Also got a URL out here that you can use as well. Just go to wallacewins.com/Sliwa. Thank you for their partnership, and thank you for being a part of the Sliwa Show.